Welcome to the Bakersfield City Council meeting. This television broadcast is brought to you by the local cable companies, the County of Kern, and the City of Bakersfield. You can watch the rebroadcast of this meeting Saturday at 7 p.m., Sunday at 10 a.m., and the following Wednesday at 7 p.m. You can download the agenda for this meeting at www.bakersfieldcity.us. Presiding over this evening's meeting, the Honorable Mayor Karen K. Go.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to call to order the 5:15 regular City Council meeting of January 21st, 2026. Welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for participating this evening. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Go.
Here.
Vice Mayor Core.
Here.
Councilmember Arias.
Here.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Here.
Councilmember Weir. Councilmember Smith.
I'm here.
Councilmember Coman.
Here.
And Councilmember Bashir Tosh.
Here.
Thank you. Tonight we have the pleasure of having Pastor Traco Matthews, who's the pastor of the Church of God Bakersfield, to offer the invocation. He really needs no introduction. He is everywhere at all times and also part of Kern Health Systems. Thank you so much, Pastor, for hosting the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. service this year. We appreciate your very, very dedicated service on so many committees and in so many varied aspects of our community. And thank you on your pastoral anniversary. Following the invocation, Benjamin Purcell, who's a senior at Bakersfield Christian High School, will lead us in the pledge. Benjamin is a 4-dimension dream builder, and that's a really big thing. Only select people are chosen there. He serves as the ASB Commissioner of Spiritual Life. He's first chair clarinet in school, and he also is a pole vaulter on his school's track and field team. He hopes to attend Cal Poly and study agribusiness. And then we need you to come back, Benjamin, and come back to our community. Pastor, would you all please stand now?
As a pastor, I'll take the liberty of sharing a couple of scriptures before we pray. Psalm 33:12, it says, "Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord." And then, of course, you know this one. It's one of MLK's favorites from Micah 6:8. It says, "He has shown you," I'll make it plural, "humans, what is good, but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God." We're grateful for council members who embody the spirit of that, doing righteous, just work, but also demonstrating compassion and empathy for every resident in this community. Let's pray. Almighty God, maker of heaven and earth, the one who reigns over the universe, this world, over kings and kingdoms, princes and presidents, mayors and managers, to you we come this evening acknowledging our gratitude for your provision, for this beautiful city, for your favor and your blessings we've already experienced in 2026. Lord, we ask for your wisdom for those who are governing, making decisions. May they trust in your wisdom and not their own understanding. We pray that you will give them hearts of compassion, of love for every single person that you love. And Lord, we also pray that you will give them courage to do what is righteous and just for every person that lives in this beautiful city. We ask these things in your righteous and holy name, and all God's people said, amen.
Thank you, Pastor.
Salute, pledge. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin. Would you like to introduce your family?
Of course. So I have my dad right here, and he's the only one here right now, but thank you for this.
Thank you so much for being here, and all the best in school.
For sure.
Thank you, Pastor, also. And if any of you need to leave at this time, this would be the appropriate time. Thank you. Here are a few guidelines to help our meeting run smoothly. We request that you turn off your phones. Please be courteous courteous in the use of cameras and videos. For safety reasons and as a courtesy to others, no signs are allowed in the council chamber or in the lobby. Applause is allowed during the presentations portion of the meeting, but not during other portions of the meeting. Everyone in attendance is expected to adhere to the rules of decorum established by the City Council by resolution. Failure to abide by the city's rules of decorum, including any disruptive behavior that interferes with our ability to have an orderly and efficient meeting, prevents the City Council from conducting the business of the city. Consider this a first warning to everyone in attendance that conduct that disrupts this meeting may result in expulsion and or the chambers being cleared. Behavior that disrupts the meeting includes repetitive statements, shouting, hate speech, interrupting staff or presenters during the meeting, speaking out of turn, and outbursts from the audience. In keeping with the council's resolution, public statements are received at different times. Depending on the item, I'll call on the city clerk to call for public statements. If you wish to make a public statement, please fill out a public speaker card and place it in the tray next to the speaker's podium. We ask that you mark whether you're here to speak on an item listed on tonight's agenda or in a matter not on the agenda. Speakers who do not identify a specific item will be presumed speakers for the non-agenda portion of the meeting. If you're here to speak on an item not listed on the meeting agenda, you'll be called first to speak. Statements are given a 2-minute time limit per speaker, 20 minutes total for all non-agenda item public statements. If you're here to speak on an item listed on the agenda, I'll call for you at the appropriate time. If public statements become disruptive and I have to clear the chambers to regain order of the meeting, you'll be called in one at a time to provide your public statement when your item is called. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers regarding items not listed on the agenda?
Mayor Go, we've received 6 speaker cards regarding items not listed on tonight's agenda. The first public speaker is Rich O'Neill.
Mr. O'Neill? And if you just announce the next, just so that person's prepared.
Van Crawford.
Thanks. And as you come up, if you would just adjust the mic according to your height. Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council and staff. My name is Rich O'Neill. I'm with the Kern River Parkway Foundation, and I'm here to support other speakers tonight who will be talking about increasing the tree canopy in Bakersfield. I think the city can do a better job. I know we're trying, and we got a model in Fresno. It's a very similar community than ours, and take a look at what they're doing up there, and we can learn something from Fresno in regard to tree canopy. I do have a bright spot. Last year and a half, we had some problems out at the Truxtun Lake, some trees torn down by mistake, but the city parks and water department came through and planted over 100 trees to replace those that were lost. And I hope we can do more of that kind of thing in other areas in the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. Next speaker, please.
Van Crawford, followed by Dennis McLean.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Ivan Crawford. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to kind of bring to attention the bike path between Olive Drive and 7th Standard. I am the resident on Isaac Lane. I would like to know how this part of the bike path has been opened already. When there's not a connector between, I believe it's the river and past would be on the northwest side of the River Lakes golf course. You guys are still working on that part of it. But the bike path behind my house, which is about probably 50 feet from my fence, is open to everybody. When I mean everybody, we've had delivery vans from Amazon Prime come down the bike path because you guys have not put ballards in. and the fences have been taken off, and it's completely open. We have motorcycles, quads, folks walking their dogs. I understand they're walking the dog. That's what the bike path's for, and that's great. However, they're not on their leash, and they come into my yard to threaten my family and my animals. I have sheep. I have chickens. I'm a 4 acres farm, right? So it's kind of a nuisance that for my dogs. My dogs are on their own property. I don't have to have a leash on my dogs. People that walk on that bike path do. There's no signs posted that they should have a leash. No signs posted for no motorized vehicles. Obviously, there's no signs posted for the delivery vans that told me that GPS sent them down there, and I told them they were wrong. Anyway, if this part of the bike path is not open yet, I would like to know how come there's no fences up, right? If it is open, how come the ballards haven't been put up and the signs posted?
Mr. Crawford, your time is up, but thank you. Mr. Clegg, is it possible to have somebody on staff follow up with Mr. Crawford? Is there somebody here maybe who can just go in the back just to start the conversation? And then I know Councilmember Smith, you also would like to make a comment.
Absolutely, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, I was going to make the same comment, just have staff follow up. Exactly what's the location again?
We're between Snow Road and 7th Standard. There's the Rock Harbor Church is on Snow Road. We are 2 lots behind the church. Isaac Lane is a dirt road that's a access road for the Echeverry's farm that's on that. It's an equipment road. That's the access to our house, is that dirt road. But the bike path is just to the east of us, about, I'm saying 50 feet. That's pretty conservative. I'm giving you guys some. I'm going to say it's probably less than that. And it's very high.
Great.
So it actually looks over.
Thank you. So you're closer to Snow Road or closer to 7th Standard?
I'm probably right in the middle between
okay.
Snow and 7th Standard, right off that bike path.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. We'll have somebody on staff follow up with you.
Dennis
Welcome. Please
McLean.
introduce yourself. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. I'm here to support Ivan. I'm a home and property owner on Snow Road for 48 years. I oppose these bicycle paths being put throughout the county. Most recently, the city put a bike path along the Kern-Bryant Canal going north from Snow to 7th Standard Road. This path runs adjacent to property owners who, before the path was installed, had the canal security fence under lock and key, which provided privacy. Now the path is wide open to unwanted traffic, homeless individuals, and riffraff. When the tax-paying homeowners asked the city to provide a security fence to isolate their property, city planning officials responded with lack of funds. Yet the city provided Dolores Huerta Foundation hundreds of thousands of dollars for infrastructure improvements for her downtown government-funded project. Go figure. I also oppose the narrowing of 8th Street from 4 driving lanes to allow for 2 driving lanes and 2 bicycle lanes. Just what our town needs, more bike lanes for the 99% of the public who do not own a bike or use that type of transportation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Next speaker, please.
Anja Lauer, followed by Eddie Lane.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
So good afternoon, Council. So my name is Antje Lauer. I'm a member of the Concavia chapter of the Sierra Club and a professor at CSUB. And before I start, I have a handout for you, a letter or follow-up to a letter that we sent last year with some key points that address the tree plan. the tree plan of our city and how we want to improve the tree canopy coverage in our city. So the city of Bakersfield has developed a central city and citywide tree plan, as well as a document named SOAR Bakersfield, which means Sustainable Opportunities Advancing Resilience, with funding from the EPA and an outside consulting firm. Awesome. Really, I read it. It's good. So one of its goals is to enhance quality of life, investments in green spaces, trees, and public amenities. Several nature-based solutions are described, among them planting more trees. So on page 39 in our tree plan, chapter 3 actually, under measure description, it is stated that Bakersfield trees cover approximately only 0.65% of its land area. So the tree plan advises the city of Bakersfield to increase the canopy by 50 to 200%, which only adds up to being 1 to 2% then, which sounds small, but it would be a significant increase for our city. So other proposed measures in that plan include establish a citywide free tree program that provides residents with free trees to plant on their properties, and a tree ordinance should be updated in partnership with the city's tree advisory group, of which I am a member for about 1 year. So what progress has been made to increase the tree canopy in Bakersfield within that year that I'm on the committee? 0. And I see my time is up. I have one more sentence. Can I say
Go
that?
ahead with that sentence.
Okay. So very important. So right now, Bakersfield is spending $1 million on tree maintenance and removal with 0 reinvestment, creating a tree deficit cycle. So I give my voice to Eddie Lane, who can continue then. Okay, thanks.
Madam City Clerk, next speaker, please.
Eddie Lane, followed by Rob Parsons.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Eddie Lane with the Sierra Club. Many of us supported the additions to the tree plan well over a year ago. We were greatly pleased when those additions were added. Based upon a California Public Records Act request, actually a series of them, which are here, what we can say now is that whole portions of that plan have been virtually ignored. I'm sorry to say that. Fresno's plan was adopted as a model. Fresno trims trees every 6 years, not Bakersfield. We're asking for a written 6-year plan on the city's website so as to avoid unnecessary trimming, such as occurred during November and December on Chester Avenue and 17th Street. Those are only 2 examples. Timing is also important. We were assured by staff there would be no trimming during bird breeding season, which is July, August, September. Yet, over 2,000 trees were trimmed in July, August, and September. Cost over $225,000. And these were not dormant trees. Tree trimming is harmful for trees when they have full leaves on them. Primarily, again, based upon the California Public Records Act request, our earlier detailed 6-page letter of December 8, we requested answers about the direction of the tree work by the city. I passed out that letter. Example, research indicates that 24-inch box trees are more root-bound than 15-inch trees. Yet the city's bid is basically for the 24-inch trees. So we're asking for answers to those questions that we submitted before. And I remember some months ago that some of these issues were asked by Councilman Coleman for answers. So we would like those answers. And they're detailed, we know. But that's important to get into the details. Our goal is, as a healthy City of Bakersfield canopy, our goal is to increase and improve the quality of life in the City of Bakersfield. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Lane. Next speaker, please.
Rob Parsons.
Yes, I'm Rob Parsons. I'm a citizen of Bakersfield since 1948. I'm a retired Bakersfield College STEM instructor and or professor. And I'm just here in support of the tree document that's been presented to you and the additions to be implemented to the tree plan for Bakersfield. And I don't think I need to say any more than what's already been said. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons. Madam Clerk, are there any other requests to speak at this point?
Mayor Go, that was our final non-agenda speaker.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Wasn't sure if you seen my notice. I just wanted to ask staff, we are going to get an update on where that committee has been going and what staff's response is to it.
That's right, Councilmember Smith. In addition to a memo I provided to your council in this last month, we're going to have a presentation at one of our workshops in February at one of these council meetings.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Arias.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thank you to the speakers who continue to bring this issue to the council. I think it's a very important one. I can't remember the statistics, but I know that Southeast Bakersfield in Ward 1 is home to the least amount of tree coverage throughout the entire city of Bakersfield. And so I just want to say thank you on behalf of the 60,000 residents that I represent. And I think it's really important that we start to make progress on this issue. I want to thank those members of the Tree Advisory Committee for your work over the past year. I think that this council was wise to be very conservative and frugal when crafting this most recent budget. But as we look to the mid-year, if there are dollars available, I would like to ask that staff bring back a recommendation on a somewhat significant allocation so that we can begin purchasing additional trees and begin planting those throughout the city of Bakersfield. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Arias. I'm going to take the chair's prerogative at this point and change up the order of our meeting again a bit. Our community deeply mourns the loss of former council member Irma Carson, who championed opportunity for all, served our city with relentless dedication. I know we have some family members here. She was a strong, courageous, and fierce advocate for the city of Bakersfield, Ward 1, and beyond. Ms. Carson gave voice and brought action to underrepresented communities. Her deep faith, her indomitable heart for the citizens of Bakersfield, and the myriad contributions inspire us to emulate her trailblazing service. Ms. Carson leaves a lasting legacy that will impact generations to come. Would you join us in viewing this video of photo memories? There is not enough that we can say or do that would adequately pay tribute to Ms. Carson. I know that many of us will be involved in the upcoming services on Friday and Saturday, and I'll have the privilege of speaking there. After our community pays tribute to Ms. Carson at the upcoming memorial services, at the appropriate time, certainly our city will seek input from our family, from our community members, to consider how we can create a fitting naming tribute in honor of the council member. We just so appreciate her and thank her for her dedicated service to our community family. We mourn with you. We thank you for the gift of your mom. Karen, thank you so much for sharing the gift of your mom with us, and to all of the other family members. Thank you very much. And I'd like to turn it over right now to our Vice Mayor for comments, and then I'll invite any other colleagues who wish to make comments to speak. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. First and foremost, to the family of Councilwoman Dr. Irma Carson, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today while you mourn, while you plan a funeral. You've joined us today so that we could be in the same space as you before the services and honor her from the dais. And I know you all have shared that you've sat in the same room so many times watching your matriarch on this dais. And I'm so grateful that T introduced me to Dr. Carson when she was honored at Cal State Bakersfield, and I had the opportunity to personally thank her for being the first Black woman on this dais, the first woman of color, because simply put, I would not be up here in this chair if it wasn't for Dr. Carson coming before me. And without Councilmember Dr. Irma Carson, places of decision making, they don't get reshaped until they are changed by forces like Dr. Carson. So I too live within her legacy. And in the words of Pastor Mike Jenkins, this is a community matriarch that so many of our community leaders have been shaped by. T has shared, and so many others through the Ebony Counseling Center and our neighborhoods that were invested in, beyond creating institutions that shaped our community leaders that lead today. And so those are seeds that are planted by those who see into the future beyond, further than we can even. And as the mayor shared, on behalf of the city council, we will very diligently make sure that in the coming months, the city council and the city work with the family as well as our community, so that we can create a beloved legacy, whether it's in the form of naming a center for Dr. Irma Carson, one of the roads maybe that it was in the ward that she represented, or a building that is one of our city buildings, so folks can see her name across those boards for time to come. And we just thank her for being the first so that so many of us could follow in her footsteps. And we commit to bringing this back in the spring of 2026. So thank you so much to the family for letting us join in honoring her enormous legacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And other colleagues, anyone who would wish to offer comment? Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. I join my colleagues in just expressing deep condolences to the Carson family, and want to thank you for being here and allowing us the opportunity and the privilege to honor Dr. Carson's legacy. It is moving to think about her history and her contributions in leadership to our city. I had an opportunity fairly recently in July to sit down, thanks to Pastor Jenkins, to sit down with Dr. Carson and have a long conversation and reminisce, and also receive some words of wisdom. And that meant so much to me. In many parts of Ward 2 now were part of Ward 1, MLK Park, lots of parts of Union down to Brundage. And I reflect on my own life as a young man, as a high school student, watching the city council and watching all of the council members up here. And I just remember being in awe of Councilwoman Carson and how much she advocated and fought for her community, fought for Southeast Bakersfield with passion, oftentimes with many council members opposed to her. This idea of revitalization of some of our most disadvantaged neighborhoods, she was doing that work early on, 30 years ago. And we have a lot to thank her for. There are many projects today that our community enjoys, and without even thinking about, have benefited from because of Dr. Carson's work. Practical things like grocery stores and neighborhoods that were food deserts, parks that were falling apart, new apartment complexes when housing was limited, affordable housing. She fought for additional street lighting. She fought for economic development and jobs within the neighborhood. When so many people were looking towards the West and thinking about what they could build new, she was the advocate for the historic parts of our community, those areas that had been forgotten forever. And I always remember that. That means a lot. She inspired and shaped the way I choose to lead as a council member. So God bless Councilwoman Carson. Thank you for her. I know she's up in heaven looking down on us tonight. And I just want to thank her for her contributions of leadership to our city. She has made an impact that will echo through Southeast Bakersfield and throughout our city for decades to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez. Anyone else at this point? No, for them later. I'm going to reserve my comments for Saturday. What I will say is that in 2007, Garden Pathways had the opportunity to honor Miss Irma as a woman with a heart for Bakersfield. And I think that description really is it. Woman with a heart for Bakersfield and beyond. She had a big, big heart. Family, thank you so much for being here. I know that you're not able to stay through the whole service, but I do plan to close the council meeting this evening in her memory, and we'll have a moment of silence at that point. God bless you all, and our hearts go out to you. Thank you so much for being here. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Mayor, we've received one speaker card regarding agenda item 7H1. Seth Hewitt.
Thanks.
Madam Mayor and Council, good evening. My name is Seth Hewitt, and during our last City Council meeting, we were voting on whether or not to allocate more resources to street repairs and road maintenance and additional resources to related equipment. And that's a great thing. I'm very grateful y'all passed that with no problems. Our city definitely appreciates public administrators who care about our roads. And it appears today as well, we're going to be likely accepting a bid of about $600,000 for street improvements on Stein Road and McKee Road. Again, I really hope this passes. This is going to be great. And last meeting, I wanted to capitalize on that opportunity to pitch a municipal transport authority. I'm a public administration student, so this is something that I've been looking into on how do we generate external revenues that can kind of offset that burden that our city as well as our taxpayers face when it comes to something like street improvements. But I was a little naive and a little too excited, and I made a terrible slip when I pitched this originally. Now, the way that a municipal transport authority generates revenues is to charge, and I gave a little spitball of about 8 cents per mile on these heavy freighters that are using our designated freight corridors. And even with that very modest tax, we could generate several $1 million. Now, a couple weeks ago when I pitched this, I said 8 cents per gallon. What does that even mean? 8 cents per gallon of gas? It was terrible. And so I wanted to clear the record today. And again, since we are talking about more road maintenance, really just pitch this idea to you of a municipal transport authority. It's totally feasible. It's doable. They already have their own existing telematic systems to where they know how much their freighters are carrying, where they're going, how far they're traveling in our city. It's just a great way for us to be able to collect those revenues, again, without really having to dip into either the general fund, and I know there's a fund associated with transportation in our city, but again, I don't think it's the residents that are driving their Kia Optimas that are doing this damage. It's a lot of these heavy freighters, and that's an industry that we love here in our city, these distribution networks, but it'd be great if they can pay their fair share and help us take care of the city we love. Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Hewitt. Thank you. And Madam Clerk, will also have public statements now listed on the agenda. If you're here to speak on appointments item 6A or items listed under consent calendar item 7, your time to speak is now. Again, each speaker will be given a 2-minute time limit, and each agenda item is limited to 20 minutes total. The consent calendar as a whole constitutes one agenda item. If you're here to speak on reports item 10A, now is not the time to speak. You'll be given an opportunity to speak when that item is called later in the meeting. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers regarding appointments item 6A or items listed under consent calendar item 7?
Mayor Go, we have not received any additional speaker cards.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Appointments, item 6A, appointments to the Keep Bakersfield Beautiful Committee, multiple wards. Applications for appointment have been received from Hovik Badurian, Jesse Dhaliwal, Nayali Franco, Harvid Singh Grewal, Albert Eugene Johnson III, Jenny Annette Curdy, Daniel C. Nolan, Lindsay Parker, Sandy Turner, and James Howard Wheeler.
Thank you. These appointments are by council member. Therefore, I'm going to call on Vice Mayor Corr and then Vice Mayor Arias to share their alternate Keep Bakersfield Beautiful Committee member nominations. Vice Mayor Corr.
Thank you, Mayor. Today I'm honored to appoint to the Keep Bakersfield Beautiful Committee Harvind Singh Gariwal for Ward 7. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Councilmember Arias, your nominee.
Thank you, Mayor. Per many recommendations of this individual, it's my honor to nominate Mr. Albert Eugene Johnson III to be the Ward 1 alternate on the KBB committee.
Thank you, Councilmember Arias. Vice Mayor, the motion, please.
Motion to appoint Harvind Singh Gariwal and Albert Eugene Johnson III to the Keep Bakersfield Beautiful Committee.
Thank you. You have a motion. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved with Councilmember Gonzalez and Weir absent.
Thank you. And to Harvin and Al, thank you so much for your willingness to serve. This is a work committee. It requires a lot of effort early on Saturdays, sometimes in the rain, picking up, keeping our community beautiful. So thank you for your willingness to serve. And now, colleagues, I haven't received any requests for recusals or for items to be pulled from the consent calendar. So, Vice Mayor?
Motion to approve consent calendar.
Oh, thank you. Can we read the consent calendar, please, particularly 7E?
Consent calendar items 7A through 7J for approval. A staff memorandum was provided correcting the title of 7C2 to indicate that it is the first reading of an ordinance and not the adoption. Also, please note that item 7E1 contains a staff recommendation to adopt resolutions approving salaries and benefits for specified units.
Thank you, and thank you, Madam City Attorney, for keeping us on the straight and narrow. We really appreciate you. You don't know how much this woman has done for us. Thank you so much, Ginny. Appreciate it. All right, back to you, Vice Mayor.
Motion to approve consent calendar items 7A through 7J.
You have a motion. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved with Councilmember Weir absent.
Thank you. And now, next item, please, Madam City Clerk.
Reports item 10A, report on agreement 2021-142 with Union Pacific Railroad Company to lease Sumner Station.
Thank you. City Manager Clegg.
Yeah, I think the Mayor and Council, a couple different staff members will walk through some slides on this topic. This is a referral made at our last meeting to bring this topic up for an update. And today, big picture, going back several years, we had a referral from Council to look at this property, to work with Union Pacific Railroad to establish a maintenance agreement with them to preserve the building and to explore, redevelopment opportunities into the future. And so to go through just some of the, property information and details, as well as kind of where we're at and where we've been headed, I'll ask Jason Cater to first speak to this, and Gary Hallen will also help us with the presentation.
Welcome, Mr. Cater.
Perfect. Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. As City Manager Clegg mentioned, Jason Cater, work in the Economic and Community Development Department as one of the department managers, and happy to be here tonight and provide tonight's update. So as City Manager Clegg kind of teed up, we'll start with high level tonight, kind of why we're here. We're here for an update on the lease maintenance agreement for the Sumner Station Depot that is in Old Town Kern. Just some background for context setting. This property is currently owned by the Union Pacific Railroad. It was constructed in 1889 as a passenger rail. In recent years was used for offices, and in 2021 was slated for demolition as the UP office administration had moved sort of east to a new facility. As part of that, we heard from the community and from the council that your council at the time wanted to preserve the structure. In exchange for that, working with Union Pacific in June of 2021 to authorize a lease for the property so that the city would maintain the property in exchange for looking for other opportunities to explore adaptive reuse options on that site. The current property we have under lease is about 24,500 square feet of a historic structure. You can see here it's a two-story building, about two different wings that functioned as historic parts of the structure. In general, we're looking at an area under lease of about an acre with an interest in about a 2.5 acre section that could be used for the structure, as well as some area to the east that's currently underutilized. So since that time, it's 2021, we're coming back here for a report. What has staff been focusing on? So just a few of the items that we've been working on. First, security and stabilization of the structure. So part of the agreement with UP was the city would work on maintenance and security to ensure the property stayed in good condition. Our staff has Teltech Services providing 24/7 coverage through a series of cameras, sensors, different perimeter gates. If there's a disturbance on site, we get a call for notification. We have camera access. If there's something that looks like a break-in, we can call for PPD services to respond. In addition to that, we also have a code officer who works in the region who provides about 1 to 2 drive-bys a week to ensure that there's nothing that our systems have missed in terms of potential break-ins. And then once a month, we have an on-site inspection to walk through the actual property to check the interior condition. During this time, we have engaged the lab, which is code for Little American Business. So they are the group who invested in the Anaheim Packing House. It was a readaptation of an old orange packing grouse in Anaheim. If you know Anaheim's history, big Orange Grove community. This was a facility that community had a real connection and commitment to. They preserved it. They kind of converted it into this public market space, multi-use tenant. More recently, they've also completed a project in Riverside looking at an old motel conversion there, the Farmhouse, I believe is the name of it, where they took an old 1950s roadside motel and converted it into the same thing, a mixed multi-tenant facility. So they've done some renderings and some concept work for the site. We've also prepared a prospectus looking at some of the market conditions and some of the opportunities for advertisement. We've engaged 3 developers on the prospects of redeveloping the site, again, the lab being one of them, 2 other investor groups who have had interest. We've continued to evaluate some of the site constraints and market conditions. I believe Assistant City Manager will talk a little more to some of those analysis. In addition to that, as a part of the council's referral in fiscal year 23-24, we leveraged the Old Town Kern Community Visioning Plan process to kind of look at what the area around the site could be, using this as sort of a platform for investment in Old Town Kern. So we mentioned the Old Town Kern Vision Plan. That process began in 2024 and wrapped up this last fall, which is basically a high-level assessment of about a half a square mile area bounded by Truxton, Beale, 178, and Union to kind of look at different ways to kind of bring back one of our historic neighborhoods that has a lot of history and character, and seeing where this site, among others, could play in that area's reinvestment. A lot of the members of the community were involved in this process, and what we've seen through that is that there is a lot of interest in historic reinvestment in assets for this area. So Old Town Kern specifically has a lot of old restaurants, character, feel, and people felt like this was something they wanted to see investments in this area. A focus on walkability, placemaking, again, kind of building that unique sense of place in Old Town was the focus of the plan. We saw calls for support for local businesses, as well as leveraging arts and creative spaces to kind of create a unique feature and assets in Old Town Kern. We looked at public realm improvements along Sumner Street and Baker as part of how do we mix this into the community, looking at adaptive reuse as catalytic opportunities for private investment, again, the Sumner Station being one of those options, and looked at a series of ways we can try to bring in improvements around the Baker Street crossing and alternatives for what that could look like. When we looked at the Sumner Station as part of that plan, really what we saw was that Sumner Depot was really envisioned as sort of an anchor for Old Town Kern. It really sits at the center of this planning area and really has a focal point of connecting sort of the north side of the tracks with the south side of the tracks. And so we really saw this as something that was sort of integral to that planning process. We looked at the potential to activate the street with pedestrian-oriented uses. As you can see here, some of the rendering concepts from the labs showing some of the landscaping processes. Also looking at some of the treatment options we could use for Baker as it approaches that crossing there. We looked at opportunities for outdoor gathering, art and small-scale programming, as well as ways to strengthen neighborhood identity, looking at the site constraints. So a lot of this identity really came down from the community's perspective, looking at Sumner Depot and what it meant for Old Town Kern. I think with that, I'm going to pass the mic to our Assistant City Manager to talk about where we are today.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks, Council. Just really quickly, this is a redevelopment site, as City Manager Clegg talked about. I'm a student of redevelopment. I love redevelopment projects. What you need in redevelopment is 3 solid legs of the stool. You have to have a good site, and if you're not the property owner, you have to have an agreeable, workable property owner. That's the property owner, and the market conditions have to be right. That's how redevelopment occurs. So because this is a great site, as Jason talked about, it's right in the heart of Old Town Kern. Do we have those other 2 set of conditions? Is the property owner, who is UP, are they agreeable? Are they workable? And what I'll share is it's been difficult, just to say a real brief comment there. We have tried to work with UP on what does that redevelopment look like. We've tried to work on a long-term plan. Can we get into a long-term ground lease? Part of the leverage that UP has is they are the property owner, they own this site, and they also would like to see something happen to the treatment along Baker and Sumner, that crossing. So some of our efforts have been along those lines of what could we do at that crossing. That crossing is a concern for UP. It's a concern for us. So some of the other concerns that we're trying to work through on this project is there's a lot of maintenance on that site. In the admin report talked about there's been $140,000 of maintenance. That's fencing, that's security cameras, just trying to make the site more sustainable so that there's less damage long term. It does take a lot of staff time. Jason talked about there's code staff time, there's PD staff time, but that's what you do on a site that you're trying to protect. We provided some of the plans to UP to try to encourage them to come along with us, and we've given them traffic studies, other crossing treatments to help ease some of those concerns. We've not been able to make great progress. We've recently brought on a consultant that has UP history, so they've been employees at UP to help us be what we call our UP whisperer to see if we can make some progress there. It's slow going, but they have been able to get into spaces we've not been able to get to. They've been able to talk to UP's real estate division to help us get to the table there. That's our next play on this project, is to try to get in and talk to the real estate division at UP. So with that, leads us to the options that are before you today, and we're available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hallen. City Manager Clegg, any further comments before we go to the public?
Thank you, Mayor. No.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, any requests to speak? I believe we do have some. Would you call them, please?
Mayor Go, I did want to announce that we did provide a staff memorandum transmitting correspondence from the Historic Preservation Commission. The first speaker is Stephen Montgomery, followed by Jonathan Yates.
Thank you.
Good
Welcome,
evening,
Mr. Montgomery.
Mayor Go, members of council. I'm Stephen Montgomery, the chair of the Historic Preservation Commission. Years ago, when discussing a preservation matter with a state officer, I recall his comment as we don't hear much from Bakersfield very often. This is telling about how many of our in our community view our historic built heritage. As it is, we've lost much of our which should have been kept. This partly because of two earthquakes of 1952 and perhaps just plain lack of appreciation for a serious period design. In the day, these buildings were built with consideration for heavy rail equipment passing nearby, such as large steam locomotives, which weigh up to about 400 tons. Today, diesel to electric units typically weigh between 150 to 200 tons, but the obvious means that they pass by, there's more opportunity for a vibration. But a retired building and bridges engineer told me that when they could continue to draw and do their drafting while trains passed by without any disturbance to their work. That was how stable the building was. Here we are considering an ongoing maintenance lease that protects this solid building. It's a serious work of architecture that does need have uncovering of that ill-considered 1941 facade improvement that was done. This leaves the that lease that the protection it offers, that is in keeping badly behaving people at bay, is critical. Not that long ago, the monitored security system revealed on camera some miscreant setting a gasoline-fed fire in the breezeway. Firefighters, given prompt notice, were able to quickly respond before it destroyed anything beyond the baggage room door. Unfortunately, we're faced with a number of challenges, particularly the Union Pacific Railroad that hasn't been very cooperative in this.
Mr. Montgomery, your time is up. Would you bring your comments to a close? Go ahead and
So yes,
wrap
protecting the building while looking for productive occupants to make good use of it takes time, but considering the outcome, we recommend leaving the contract in place. It's well worth it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery. Next speaker, please, Madam Clerk.
Jonathan Yates, followed by Catalina Maldonado.
Welcome, Mr. Yates.
Mayor and council members, I want to speak today about the Sumner Depot, not just as a historic building, but as part of a much bigger picture about Bakersfield's economic future and identity. Strong cities have strong downtowns. When the urban core thrives, it benefits the entire region, not one ward over another, not one neighborhood at the expense of others. A healthy downtown creates jobs, attracts investment, supports small businesses, and gives the whole city a sense of pride and identity that you can never replicate with sprawl alone. Old Town Kern is part of our historic urban core and is essentially Bakersfield's second Main Street. Investing in Old Town Kern and preserving the Sumner Depot is not about favoring one part of Bakersfield. It's about investing in the shared heart of the city. When people visit Bakersfield or when young people decide whether to stay or move away, they don't judge us by our cul-de-sacs. They judge us by whether we have a place that feels distinctly Bakersfield. The Sumner Depot is one of very few remaining buildings that tells our story, our railroad history, our growth as a city, and the roots of Old Town Kern. Because of the 1952 earthquake, we've already lost so much of our historic fabric. Continuing to erase what remains weakens our identity at a time when cities are competing for talent, tourism, and economic relevance. This building is not a liability, it's an opportunity. Across California, historic depots have been adaptively reused into cafes, event spaces, visitor centers, and small business hubs that activate downtowns and catalyze reinvestment. That kind of activation doesn't just help downtown, it lifts the city's brand as a whole. Even if it takes 10 more years of this Union Pacific lease and paying for securing the depot in order to find the right partner to bring the station to life, that would be a worthwhile investment, even in the world of constrained budgets and difficult financial trade-offs. If Bakersfield's urban core can thrive again, it rebrands the entire city. It tells a story that we are proud of who we are, where we came from, and where we are going. Distinctly Bakersfield, not anywhere else. I urge you to keep the lease in place and pursue adaptive reuse. This
Thank you,
is an
Mr.
investment in our shared future, not just a building.
Thank you, Mr. Yates. Next speaker, please.
Catalina Maldonado, followed by Empress Noncicalelo.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I'm here to speak on tonight's agenda item regarding the lease and future of the Sumner Street train station. I want to be clear from the start. The Sumner Street station should remain standing and should not be demolished or lose its historic character. As you consider the lease, I urge you to protect this landmark and ensure its future use honors its history and elevates the surrounding neighborhood. Sumner, now known as Old Town Kern, is where Bakersfield began. Founded in late 1880s around the railroad, this was the city's original urban core, built by working families, Dust Bowl migrants from Oklahoma, Mexican families, Chinese railroad workers, and small business owners. This was a place people came to build lives. You can still see the history today in landmarks like the Granada Theater. Here is the reality that we must be honest about. People do not want to invest here because it does not feel safe or stable. We cannot restore buildings while allowing people to deteriorate on the streets, and we cannot revive this area without clear standards for the businesses that we allow to operate here. Allowing untreated mental illness and open drug use in public spaces is not compassion. Many individuals cannot self-advocate and need treatment, structure, and, whenever appropriate, conservatorship, not permanent life on the street. Old Town Kern deserves business standards, businesses that elevate the area, not contribute to its decline. We already know what works. Luigi's has stood the test of time. Narducci's is gone now, but it represents the kind of restaurant that belonged there and should return as we revive Sumner and Baker. I hope the city will consider targeted grants or incentives to support that kind of investment. Here is the vision for the Sumner Street station, at least mine.
Ms. Maldonado, your time is up.
I'm
Can you bring
sorry.
your comments to a close?
Thank
Please
you so much.
do another sentence or two.
Well, I don't want for the future of Old Town Kern to continue in the trajectory that it has gone down. I'd like to see it elevated.
Thank you, Ms. Maldonado. Next speaker, please.
Empress Noncicalelo, followed by Mike McCoy.
Welcome. Please
evening.
introduce yourself.
Good evening, council members and mayor. I am Empress Noe Ntozikilelo. Preserving a legacy landmark. On Friday, we will celebrate the legacy of Irma Carson, the first Black city councilwoman for her tireless work in Ward 1, aka the Southeast, one of the most underserved, underfunded, and neglected areas of our city. In the early 90s, Ms. Carson would ask me to make presentations before the council to support sorely needed work and changes. She was often successful. But alas, the needs were many and the resources were not freely given to an area with a population of people of color and relegated to the lower socioeconomic level. Today, due to city administrative changes and the valiant efforts of City Manager Christian Clegg and First Black Assistant Manager Rick Anthony, Jason Cater, city staff, and City Councilman Andre Gonzalez, the Southeast continues to have sincere, strong representation. Those who truly believe that all areas of the city should have services and amenities that promote a sense of pride in its residents. Areas like Old Town Kern, home of the Santa Fe train depot, an area that was once a thriving hub with shops, restaurants, businesses, and homes. The Santa Fe train depot provided jobs for many, like my Uncle Leroy, a Southeast resident who walked for more than 30 years to this place, all the while suffering from acute asthma, a job that produced income for purchasing a new home in the area. City Councilman Gonzalez has been working diligently to bring the area back to its former days of glory and more, with a plan to revitalize the depot with shops,
Ms. Empress.
businesses, restaurants,
Ms.
jobs.
Empress, your time is up. Would you bring your comments to a close? Go ahead and add a couple more sentences if you'd like.
Don't demolish the site. Demolish mindsets that think it is easier to keep building new areas and not fix the old. Don't demolish the site. Demolish mindsets that can only measure how well they are doing by how poorly others are faring.
Thanks,
Don't
Ms.
demolish
Empress.
this last one. Don't demolish the site. Demolish mindsets that destroy hope for equality of services for all of the city's residents. Let's keep hope alive, stated Jesse Jackson. And in
Thank
the
you,
words
Ms.
of
Empress.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the time is always right to do what's right.
Thank you. And next speaker, please.
Mike McCoy.
Thank you. Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Mike McCoy. I serve on the Historic Preservation Commission for the city. I'm a resident of the city, and I also have the great honor of being the executive director of the Kern County Museum. Obviously, just because of my background and my interests, everybody thinks I'm just a hard-boiled preservationist. I am not. I'm a pragmatist. I was a public school superintendent, a state director in state government for a number of years in Sacramento. So I know how money works and how things get supported or not supported. I want to say right now, I want to thank city staff and thank city council for keeping this project at least breathing and on the operating table, city staff especially. But I do think that it's misguided to look at private investment in that site. I've done similar, what I call white elephant projects in other communities, and what I found was co-working situations with nonprofits is a better way to go. You have better opportunities for receptions of grants and also funding. At our museum, for example, I've been there 8 years. We've done 60 restoration projects, $7 million in private funding over the last 8 years, so it is possible. For models and the proposal I sent out at the city of Ogden, Utah, has a Union Station, and they have done that project, and it's beautiful. The one thing I would invite you to do is you leave tonight, drive 2 blocks to the west. There's a beautiful parking lot there, and 40 years ago, that was a beautiful train depot called the Santa Fe Station. There was a Harvey House restaurant in there, and now it is a vacant lot, and that will show you what happens when you demolish historic structures. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. Madam Clerk, are there any other speakers on this topic?
Mayor Go, that was our final speaker.
Thank you. We'll now go to Councilmember Bashir Tosh.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you bringing this back to us for comment and action. It doesn't really matter if I say I love history because people aren't going to agree with my vote and what I'm going to do anyway. But I love history and I love Bakersfield. I was born here. I appreciate that. We're 5 years into this lease. The city is not demolishing that. Union Pacific owns the property. We just have had a lease for 5 years. It's an extreme liability from a business owner, a business person. It puts our city in a really tough spot. It's going to be very expensive to see it to come to fruition. And I just, our city has a lot of more pressing issues that affect our entire community to allocate money and resources to, like infrastructure, sewage, roads, that kind of stuff. And so with that, I would like to make a motion to terminate the lease with Union Pacific.
Thank you, Councilmember Bashir Tosh. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate all the speakers tonight and making a lot of the points that I was prepared to make tonight. But thank you so much for being here and showing up. It means so much to all of East Bakersfield. I also want to thank staff for their work throughout the years in maintaining the site. They have done a tremendous job preserving this structure, and I just want to thank you for that. I want to share with you just a little bit. This project is really close to home to me because I was, born and raised in East Bakersfield. I was an altar boy at St. Joseph's Parish, actually, at 1515 Baker Street. And every Sunday after church, 11 a.m. Mass, we would drive down Baker Street and go to my grandmother's house at 606 Dolores. And so we would pass the Sumner Depot every Sunday. And oftentimes just throughout the week, we'd see that depot. And I always imagined what this site could be. But my story is not unique. There are tens of thousands of people throughout our community, throughout the decades, who have an experience with this building. And that's what built environments do. They create experiences for us as human beings. They give us hope. They inspire. And they create a sense of a place, of distinction, of uniqueness. There's nowhere else in America that has a Sumner Depot. 1898, built in 1898, Richardsonian Romanesque architecture. It's a very unique structure. And once we lose it, it's gone forever. And Mr. Montgomery mentioned that we've lost many historic structures over the years. He's right. 1952 earthquake, we lost several structures. And ever since then, it's been decisions that have been made that have destroyed many of our historic sites. It doesn't have to be that way. I've visited so many other cities, even in the Central Valley, where communities have taken a different route, where they saw these old historic structures not as a liability. They saw them as assets, as places to invest in. And it is so frustrating because since I was a little boy, I've only witnessed a steady decline of East Bakersfield, of Old Town Kern. You know, in the 90s, they got rid of International Park, right there adjacent to the rail line. And for what? It did not address the homelessness problem that they were trying to resolve. But they got rid of it. And ever since then, there's been a steady disinvestment of the neighborhood. It's been a constant pattern of neglect and dismissiveness of East Bakersfield. And it's decisions that have been made at this council that have contributed to that. And so we talk about the pressing concerns, and I get it. Homelessness is the number one issue. There's safety concerns. I get it. I was out there last night at 11:30 p.m. at night, by the way. And because of a lot of the work that we're doing regarding outreach work, those streets were vacant. I was out there for an hour at 11:30 to around 12:30, taking photos and just experiencing the neighborhood. We still have a lot more work to do, don't get me wrong. But we can't simply and easily just write off the best opportunity that we have to revitalize Old Town Kern, to reinvest in Old Town Kern. We're talking about an asset, a historic asset, but it's not just about preserving history. It's also about creating an economic catalyst, an anchor, so that we can spur future economic growth throughout Baker Street. That's what the Old Town Kern Vision Plan had concluded. A community-wide effort that we spent over a year developing. And so, you know, a vision idea and a book that has a bunch of pretty pictures is one thing. But the hard work comes when it's about making a commitment and doing the work day in and day out to make that vision a reality. And that, I hope, is what this council will see our charge is to do. East Bakersfield is suffering. We've had a lot of disinvestment. We've seen a decline, and many of us have been working and fighting to see some improvements and investment over the years. And there are things happening, but we cannot let go of this depot. We cannot let go of this depot. It is our asset, and it is our opportunity to see future development. And we have to remain clear-eyed. We have to have the vision. We have to have the commitment. We have to have the faith and the will to see it through. So my hope is that we can continue the leasing agreement. I do understand it's a fair question to ask ourselves about how long should we continue that agreement. And I get it. That is a fair question to ask. And I respect my colleagues for asking it. It's a responsible question to ask. But I think that given my interactions with Union Pacific and knowing where we are in negotiations and how long it's taken, I feel like we just need a little bit more time so that we can find a solution so that we can preserve the depot and we can limit or eliminate the liability on the city, and then we can move forward for the betterment of Old Town Kern and the east side.
Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to all the speakers who bring forward their concerns for this item and their passion towards seeing revitalization and the preservation of a transportation hub for so many residents throughout the generations of Kern County and the city of Bakersfield. As a student of urban planning, I of course love revitalization, and exploring this was exciting. And I thank you also, Mike McCoy, for mentioning Harvey House. I very much adore the Harvey House in Madison, Wisconsin, and would go often. And it's very treasured in the community, and also has my favorite Pavlov. So if you ever find yourself in Madison, go to Harvey House there as well. Just because this decision for the lease was made before I was on the city council, I have a few questions probably for Gary, Jason, and or Christian, whoever can help with these. In your presentation, Jason, you said that there have been efforts that have mostly gone into securing and stabilizing the structure. What specific efforts have gone into stabilizing this building?
I'll answer that. So the fencing project was probably the largest project, and that's more defensive, not necessarily stabilizing. In terms of like seismic, let me ask you a question. Is that seismic stabilizing? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, like the integrity of the building itself. When we say stabilizing, or when you say stabilizing, what do you mean? What have we done so far, and what do we hope to do next? Or is that something we're hoping the developer to do?
Yeah, Vice Mayor Court, so in that term, really the stabilization is more about security. Obviously, as was mentioned, this is an area that has some challenges with break-ins. So really what we've done when we acquired the property, we secured the doors, the windows. We contracted with Teltex Services to provide 24/7 coverage. I can tell you as one of the few staff that get the calls, if there is someone that knocks out a window at whatever hour it is, we get the call. And if it's suspicious, we call PD. We've also, as Assistant City Manager Hallen mentioned, we did secure an area that was being a challenge early on in the lease with the wrought iron fencing, so that kind of stopped the flow of people from the street side into the property. So we've invested over time in security, as well as some security and staff to make sure that the site is secure. If someone does get in, that we have an immediate response to get out and clear the trespassing.
Okay. Just having seen the types of trains and what kind of moves through this area, and it mostly being cargo and oil tankers, when do we know specifically, like at what point in history did it switch from being passenger trains to being oil tankers and cargo?
1975, I believe.
1975. Okay, so for within contemporary history, it's been mostly that. I'm curious with when you all had the conversation with the consultants who created these renderings, was there a discussion on the proximity of the actual tracks and those oil tankers moving so closely to the building itself? And what I'm trying to get at is I'm trying to imagine the site, where the building is, where the rail, how close the rail actually is, and if an oil tanker is coming through, how we would secure and make sure folks feel safe on the site itself if there's like outdoor patio and that sort of thing. Is that part of the renderings and design, and is that available to see?
Yeah, we for sure can send you the lab's more in-depth drawings of what they're contemplating, what they're proposing. They have built, and Jason referred to a little bit, they have built sites that are close to rail that have rail adjacencies. So some of their treatments that they have that are adjacent to the rail tries to do more buffer. But you've been out there. You're right next to the tracks. Like it's very, very, very close. I want to say within 10 feet, 10, 15 feet within the rail. So you can only do so much with some of those screenings and buffers to try to prevent some of that noise, rustling from occurring. But they do have some drawings that try to address that. We can send those to you.
Is there experience in working with revitalizing spaces that are close to passenger train tracks, or is it like us where we're in a predicament of it being cargo and oil?
I mean, we could ask them that question on where they're, because I think their Riverside location was closest to rail, but I also want to say that some of the Costa Mesa might also have some rail adjacencies. So we can ask them what was that rail load? Was it passenger? Was it freight? And how did they deal with that?
Okay. Yeah, I'd be curious to see what that would look like. There was a mention of the Union Pacific consultants for this predicament that we're in. Could you share a little bit more about what they are recommending, or, I mean, even in kind of the previous example of the integrity of the structure in proximity to the type of rail, or even just working with Union Pacific? And could you share a little bit with the community how challenging that relationship may be?
We don't have that much time, but I'll it's been, I mean, you can tell we've been working on this for a number of years. And maybe to make a differential, we've actually hired engineers to do traffic studies and to work with the UP engineers. So we're trying to like segment this to say, okay, some of these concerns that UP's bringing up are traffic related because of the treatment at the rail crossing. So we're going to hire some consultants to help us on the engineering side. This latest round of consultants is how do we get through, I mean, UP is a much larger organization than anything that I've ever, I mean, it's like the federal government, basically. So there's so many different departments and sign-offs that need to occur. We just needed help kind of getting through all of those hoops. And so that's the latest round of UP consultants that are helping us target. Okay, we've talked to the UP engineers, we've talked to some others that are in the local Central Valley UP offices. We now need to talk to the real estate folks and kind of make some progress there on the real estate side. So it's trying to make a collective approach to address some of the UP's concerns. So it's more of how do we get make better progress with UP. That's our latest UP consultants.
What? Okay. And with the concern with specifically closing the railroad crossing, do we have an estimate as to what that costs those who are developing this project? Or is that something we do as a city, or is it, how are we suggesting that? Is that like absolutely a part of this project revitalization? Could you clarify that?
Sure. So I'll approach that question in a different way. We don't like to disconnect communities, right? I think there are grants that cities go after where either a rail or a highway or a freeway has disconnected parts of a community, and you can enter into a grant that actually removes that barrier that disconnects the community. So a closure, in our mind, disconnects these two sides of Old Town Kern. So our proposal is to try to not have a closure. UP's proposal is they want to close it. So this has been kind of how do we thread that needle to overcome that issue? If we don't want to have a disconnected community on both sides, on the north side and the south side of the track, how do we work through that with them? That's why additional traffic studies were done, additional data was provided to them on the number of trips that people would be making to this potentially improved site. And so some of the treatments that we, which were very conceptual, that were worked on during the visioning process and were presented to the community, we also sent those to UP to have them, what do you think? Give us your ideas on this. And so we've not made any progress with them on that topic.
So within kind of revitalizing this building and developing Sumner Station, the Union Pacific has asked that there be a closure of that railroad crossing, correct?
Correct.
And that is usually in the form of like a pedestrian pathway to cross over to keep those two communities connected.
That is one option,
Okay.
is to build a pedestrian bridge. Yeah.
What is there a different option as well?
You could build an undercrossing.
Okay.
So you could close it at grade and then have an undercrossing.
How do those, do we have estimates as to the cost of either one of those? And back to my original question related to cost, is that something the city incurs, or is that something we are asking the investor/developer to take on?
I think that would make this project infeasible, to be honest with you. I think that makes this project go from just to redevelop the site somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 million based on the set of plans that we have, to an undercrossing that brings it up to an additional $30 million. So it's a $40 million project. And I don't think a developer would take that on. Are there grants you could go after? Yes, but there's also matching that's required. So there's still a high level of investment that would need to happen. And it's grants that only a city would be able to go after. Right?
And that's a condition Union Pacific has for us.
Their current
revitalizing.
position.
That's their current position.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification on that. There, within the information that Mike McCoy provided us, there's one idea that I was curious about, which is the long-term lease idea, a long-term lease or gift of building, or the gift of building to a local nonprofit or city of Bakersfield by Union Pacific with a minimum of a 45-year lease. Have we had any conversation that mirrors something like this?
We would love a long-term 45-year lease if Union Pacific would grant it. One of our first talking points with UP is if this was a $10 million investment from either investor, the city, or a combination thereof, we would want a 50-year lease. That was our starting point, and we got laughed at. UP was like, "How about 5?" That was their counter to our 50-year lease, and so this is part of that struggle of where we need them to kind of meet us in the middle somewhere, because if you're investing that much, we need a much longer term ground lease. And we like the idea of having local nonprofits be in some of these offices. We think a mixed use is what works there. Having some restaurants, some art galleries, some office, some nonprofits. We think that would be a great mix of uses in that space.
Yeah, I agree. Is that something that can be taken back to these UP consultants you've referenced?
For sure.
And I would say my final question, well, actually I have one more before my final question. There's a lot next to this property that's owned by Union Pacific, correct?
Correct.
If so, in the scenario that we do revitalize Sumner Station, what does Union Pacific plan to do with that lot? Is that a part of this? Is it separate? Could you help me understand if there's been conversation about that lot next to the Sumner Station itself?
So there's on the east side of Sumner, they own that parcel, which we're actually including as part of this footprint because as a planner, where are you going to park people that want to flock to this site. So we would propose to also ground lease that area to the west to park it. I believe your question, though, is what is UP's plans if nothing occurs on Sumner? We've not had those discussions, but we certainly can add that to the list of talking points that we have with UP if this doesn't move forward, what are your intended? I think that was your question, right?
Yeah, my question was if we build or if they demolish, what happens with the entire land? Does it, if this building is demolished, does it also become what the next door lot looks like currently? And that's concerning. If we build, what happens with that lot, and are they receptive to that lot being incorporated into whatever the developer has in mind?
Yeah. So, Vice Mayor, I would say, and I think Councilor Gonzalez, I think you'd like to comment on this, but so back to 2021, when they were going to demolish the property, the station was their offices at the time.
Mm-hmm.
They've now moved about 3/4 of a mile east.
Right.
And so they still own that property, but I think to what you see today, again, we can have the conversation, but this sort of the challenges that are happening on that property in terms of some of the encampments and the litter, their focus for office and maintenance is really now a half mile to the east. And so I don't think we've heard of any specific plans for that site for development. So I would hypothesize at this point it would probably stay vacant, similar to what you see there. And the staff's focus is really down where the loading is, about a quarter, half mile east of the property.
Okay, I have one last question. And you had mentioned that there's conversations with Lab regarding investing, and there's 3 potential investors. What does that look like today, that we're able to communicate to the community as to, like, if there's a timeline, what do conversations look like in this moment that can really communicate some sort of hope or some sort of vision, something to expect from this? If there are conversations with 3 potential investors, what are those conversations like? How far are those? Is there a timeline that can be expected? And if there's challenges, what are those?
I'll just say in our work with the lab, we've not talked about what their investment level would be. In our talks with other investors, it was more they had some general interest, but they never really gave us kind of a financing plan of, hey, if you can get this resolved with UP, we'll invest X, Y, and Z in this time frame. So I think in our mind, we needed to get the UP concerns resolved before we could really generate a good timeline. And I know that's very linear, right? Normally you just do everything all at once, but in our conversations with Lab on how some of their other projects have worked, they're like, yes, you need to get some certainty, because investors want certainty, right? They don't want to know, well, okay, is it or isn't it? What's UP's decision? And so we want to get that certainty so the investor can then have that firm commitment on timeline.
If I may, Vice Mayor, I just want to make a little bit of a finer point on that last response, which is accurate. But I want to make sure it's clear that we reported that we had in the total efforts we've talked to 2 potential investors, but currently we're not in ongoing conversations with any investors. Sort of those conversations ran their course, and absent again a more clear path, we don't really have investors sort of waiting in the wings on this project right now, to be clear.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Before we go to Councilmember Coleman, Councilmember Gonzalez, if you want to answer the one question about the lot, and then we'll come back to you after Councilmember Coleman.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I appreciate that. And Vice Mayor, thank you so much for that question, because that was a really keen question. The property, I've been in a lot of these conversations myself. In the initial conversation from Union Pacific was that once the property is demolished, their only intent is to keep that property clear. And not to develop it, but just to keep it clear. Their main focus is just to move freight through Old Town Kirk. And so, I just want to make one other point. There was a mention of encampments. The encampments actually have all formed, and the problems have all formed on the property, the vacant property, that's actually the responsibility of Union Pacific, not the area that is the responsibility of the city. I think that's an important point. If we see this lot demolished, or this property demolished, I think we're only inviting more encampments. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez. Councilmember Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor. So I want to first say that I think it's important that we support council members on projects they're trying to do in their ward, and I appreciate the efforts made by Councilmember Gonzalez on this project. But we have supported this project for the last 5 years. And let's be clear, there are no investor developers after 5 years. There's no investor developers waiting to spend money on this project. There's no agreement for a long-term lease. We've been working on it for 5 years. Mike McCoy mentioned the Union Pacific in Ogden, Utah. Well, I looked into that. Union Pacific gave the city of Ogden, Utah, that building in the 1970s and gave them a 50-year lease. And in 2024, the lease expired, or it's going to expire in 27. So the city is like, what are we going to do now? The lease expires in a couple of years, actually next year. And so they just, last year, 2024, spent $6 million to acquire that land. So here, 50 years later, the current council is faced with, what do we do now, and wind up spending another $6 million. And so we need to be thinking about what these long-term leases mean to us. I wanted to say that the staff, since 2021, we spent the $140,000, what the staff report says. But the staff report does not list all of the staff time expenses associated with this building. Code enforcement going out there, staff going out there for various things. BPD is out there on an average of 10 times a month for the last 5 years, probably more than that. So it's not the $140,000. There's a lot of other costs associated with that. That staff report also talks about $5 to $8 million renovation, but really, this thing's, we've had estimates as much as $20 million rather, to renovate this building. And it's probably, by the time we get around to it, it's going to be $30 million. And the city doesn't have those resources. And we're going to have to try to invest resources in trying to find somebody else to invest resources in this. So I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about the condition of this building. I mean, we took a lease that inherited basically all the liability for this building. We totally indemnified the Union Pacific Railway. So if somebody gets hurt there, or if that building burns down or whatever, we could be liable to Union Pacific for this building. And so that concerns me. In addition to the condition of this building, I think we all imagine there's some grand hall in here that we're going to be able to renovate. It's going to be this great thing. And that doesn't exist in this building. These are two buildings that were put up strictly to move people in, move people out. And so there was no, you talk about architectural significance. One building has one architectural style, and the other building has a different architectural style. So there are a lot of things going on here that are things that an ordinary investor wouldn't want to take on, and I don't know why the city should take it on. There's been some mention of the Old Town Current Vision Plan. That plan, I've seen that plan. I'm not 100% certain that it's been totally vetted yet and that it's been adopted by the council. I don't recall. But there are some good things in that vision plan, and there's some bad things in that vision plan. The plan is really unclear about the Sumner Depot. It's been said that, the Sumner Depot is an anchor for that development plan. And let me back up to say that I've been involved in redevelopment in the city for a long time. I served on the redevelopment agency back in the early 2000s, and so I am passionate about redevelopment. I'm just concerned that under today's times, this is a very bad deal for the city. Getting back to the visioning plan, it doesn't really talk about what Sumner's Depot's role is in that. They do talk about a gateway or entry district that would be Truxton, Baker area. They talk about the restaurant row, an arts district, an entertainment district. I really believe that the future for that area is the restaurant district. You already have Luigi's that's thriving. You have Woolgrowers that's thriving. You have Narducci's will come back. We'll get Narducci's back. Pyrenees has done a total turnaround. It's thriving. You got the Arizona Cafe. Yeah, I think we can get Noriega back at some point too. So I don't know that the depot really is the anchor for that area. I think we have kind of a build it and they will come kind of attitude to this, and I'm struggling with that. One of the things we don't talk about is the high-speed rail. If that ever gets fully done, they got a viaduct coming right down Sumner Street. And so what does that do to the depot? Does that obscure it? I know some of the renderings kind of showed them all working together, but I'm really concerned about all those kind of things. And there's so much else the city needs to focus on. We have a budget that is strained. And so I'm very, very concerned about us continuing to invest in something that's just going to be a financial albatross for us for a long time to come. The visioning, the Old Town Current Vision Plan has got an 8 or 10 year horizon, and we know how those things go. It's really more of a 10 or 20 year plan. And so I'd really hate to be in this project 20 years from now. We've lost a lot of other historical properties. I know that was said in a negative term, but a lot of those things were decisions that the community made at the time. And you think about the Southern Hotel that was downtown, and some other projects. The old courthouse that was where Bank of America building was removed, and now we have a big Bank of America building. And do we miss that building? No, I don't miss it. And so I don't know that we have to preserve it to remember it. We could very easily do some kind of memorial, some kind of monument in that area to recognize the depot and how it played in the growth of the city. And so I don't know that we need to have this building for that purpose. And I think that, concludes my notes. So I'm not in favor of continuing this lease, and I will support Councilmember Bashir-Dash's motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Coleman. I'm going to do some follow-up questions before we go to Councilmember Gonzalez. Chief, would you come up here? Councilmember Coleman, you mentioned BPD. Chief Terry, we might have fire chief in here also. Councilmember Coleman, you mentioned the number of responses needed by BPD. Chief, would you be able to just describe the condition of the building, the responses that have been needed, the amount of officers that are required for that? I know sometimes the canine, I've been inside the building, and it's large and has lots of nooks and crannies. If you could just talk about that. These decisions are never simple. So for us to have all the information needed as council makes these decisions is so important. So Chief, if you could just speak to that, please.
Sure. As it's already been described, it is a very large facility, a large building, and we're going about 10 times a month for trespassing or alarm or some other type of offense. And because of the nature of how large it is and the way it's constructed with so many different rooms it takes a number of officers to be able to clear it every single time. Sometimes that is the use of a canine is what will be used to do that. That canine may need to be summoned from some other part of the city, and so officers are waiting to do that. All of it will obviously takes time for a number of officers, depending on the nature of what the report was. If it was a burglar alarm, we would send more officers than if it was a broken-in window where it didn't appear that entry was made. If we have to go in and search and clear the building, it takes a number of officers quite a bit of time to methodically work through and safely be able to do that. And obviously, they would not be available for other types of calls. So every time we get a call there, depending on the nature of it, the amount of resources necessary to safely clear the building depends on the nature of the call.
You mentioned safely clear the building because of the conditions of the building. The arcing doesn't even allow the lights to be turned on. So when officers go in, how much time are they having to spend? Are vagrants still entering that building? And what are we diverting in terms of our resources when we have to call upon our officers to check out the building and to ensure their safety and the safety of any vagrants maybe that would have entered?
Sure. And all of that, the number of resources that we send depends on the nature of the call. If it appears that entry has been made, and then we're going to send a larger number of officers. That's probably in the realm of 4 to 6, perhaps with a canine at times. But again, just depends on the nature of the call. If it doesn't appear that entry's been made and we're just having to secure the property and check it out, then it's still a number of officers to do that because it is so large. So all of that depends on the nature of the call. But if we have to send officers in to clear the building, it is a large number of officers that are certainly not available for other types of calls for service, and that happens, 8 to 10 times a month.
We've secured the building, but are vagrants still able to enter? And have they entered?
Yes.
Right. Thank you, Chief. Councilmember Gonzalez.
And thank you, Chief, and thank you to the department for all the work that you do protecting this site and a lot of the vacant buildings that we have in downtown and Old Town Kern. That's part of the problem, is that, again, there's been a steady decline of many of our historic neighborhoods, a disinvestment. And it doesn't turn around overnight, and it requires a catalyst. It requires the city to invest in its communities and to make those properties not only safer in the short term, but find new uses. So it's actually productive, and it's actually an asset, and they're resources for all community members. And that's what we're trying to work towards. We're trying to work towards this longer term use of this property. And Councilmember Coleman, I appreciate all of your concerns, and certainly I have a list of concerns as well. And but I also have a lot of ideas of how we can actually work towards a solution. And the reason I know that is because there's plenty of examples throughout the country and throughout throughout the city where we have found many of our historic structures in decline, and we've had investors who've had the heart to invest. The Woolworths building is a good example of private investment where it would have been far cheaper, far easier to go out into the west side of town and build a brand new building. But it was because of their heart, it was because of their vision. The other thing I want to mention is that in any commercial development, I'm not a developer and I'm not in this work, but I've worked with lots of developers over the years, particularly in downtown and as it relates to revitalization. Commercial development takes a long time. It takes some time. And so we have to be able to be in this for the long term. PQ is a good example. We have a property that was purchased during the old redevelopment days on California and Q Street. This property is still vacant over 20 plus years. And we've had problems on that side as well. But I think that, the Bible says, without vision, people perish. And it's important for us as leaders in the community to have a vision for our community and for all neighborhoods in the future. And I think that Sumner Depot and this particular structure really provides a lot of not only unique character and history and serves as a cultural asset, but it also can be a catalyst for future growth. And that's not just me surmising. That comes from the recommendations of professionals who have done these projects in other parts of the state. Lab is well respected throughout the country, and they have seen the potential in this property. We have had an investor who is willing to fund the whole project, but because of the length of time it's taken with Union Pacific, they have stepped back from it, and that was a real step backwards. But I believe that we can find others with the same heart and vision and resources to make that investment. And finally, there is this issue regarding the safety and the crossing at Baker. But this rail crossing will still be a safety issue even when we demolish Sumner Depot. It will still be an issue, and Union Pacific will still be pressing the city, will still have to address it at some level. And they are using this depot as leverage to get the city to move, and it's wrong. And so I think we need to continue to negotiate. We need to push back, and my hope is that we can get this deal done. But I do understand on the other hand, I do understand that at some point we do have to say, look, we've tried our best, we've made our best effort in this negotiation, and it can't go on forever. So I'm interested in hearing from the rest of my colleagues, but I would just encourage us to kind of give us a bit more time so that we can see where we go with Union Pacific.
Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez. Councilmember Arias.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't want to belabor this issue. I think there have been many good comments and questions on both sides of the argument. What I will say is that it's my perspective that the city of Bakersfield has done its part. The city of Bakersfield has, entertained this lease for nearly 5 years now. That is quite a good length of time, particularly when the initial intention of the council was only for it to be 12 months to go negotiate with UP, to find some private investment to make this project work. I would argue that 5 years is a good amount of time. Secondly, to Councilmember Gonzalez's credit, and the community leaders, some of whom are here tonight, have done incredible work working with city staff to re-envision what could be in Old Town Kern. And I think that at the same time, this opportunity to redevelop Sumner Depot, Sumner Station, is an incredible one. So I'm torn, admittedly. On one hand, I think that there's an opportunity for us to re-envision what this site could look like. On the other side, I understand that there are liabilities associated with the current agreement. But at the end of the day, I think this ultimately is a business decision. And I think our assistant city manager pointed it out. You need a cooperating property owner in order to get the deal done. And I would make the argument tonight that sometimes the best thing you can do in a negotiation is hang up the phone or close the door and leave the meeting. And so I think we need to put a deadline on this particular lease agreement. And the other thing I think that is important is also that, we as council members represent our districts, nearly 60,000 individuals, many businesses in each of our districts. And I think it's important to respect the wishes of that representative who was duly elected to represent that district. And so I think all that said, I am most in favor of allowing for us to continue with this lease until the end date of June 24th, 2026 of this year, with the expectation that staff bring back an update on where we are with negotiations with UP, and if things move in the right direction, that we would then, at that point, have the ability to entertain an extension of the lease if things progress in a positive way. And I'll make that a motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Arias. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. So we have two options and a third one being providing additional or alternatives. If the option of the lease remaining valid, does staff feel that another 1-year term is adequate amount of time? Or how much time do we need on this project?
Madam City Attorney?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, I think that staff can answer your question, but from a legal perspective, the lease that is currently executed, it is an automatic renewal. And it is set, that date is June 24th. So if Councilmember Arias' motion goes first, if that's the last motion on the table, I'll need you to clarify that, because there isn't an extension. It's just, it's automatic. But to the Vice Mayor's point, I'll now defer to the City Manager.
Mr. Clegg?
Yeah, Vice Mayor, I think you said an additional year. Did you mean up through June 24th?
Right.
Yeah, I think through June 24th, I don't think we're going to have a fully executed long-term ground lease with UP by June. However, we could continue through June, come back and give an update to see how much progress we have made. I think that's enough time to execute our current strategy of getting to the right people at UP and be able to come back and tell council where we're at with them. But I anticipate, just giving, respect to city attorney and others, we would need time to review, any type of an agreement like that. And so I don't think we would have that, ready for council to vote on by June. But I think we could come back and give a better update on whether we think that that's going to be likely or we've given it our best effort.
I think Councilmember Arias, do you want to amend your motion?
Well, I just wanted to clarify that whether we renew for an additional year or not, we still retain the ability to terminate the lease at any point with a notice of 30 days in advance. Is that correct?
Councilmember Arias, you do. So in other words, your use of the word extension to me is not accurate, because the lease is continuing. So if you want to come back in June and get an update, great. And then if you decide at that point that you want to terminate it, you'd give your 30 days in June, and it would presumably terminate in July. There wouldn't be any need to do an extension, is what I'm telling you.
I hear you.
Yeah.
So I'll make the amendment to my motion to allow for the lease to remain valid and request that staff bring an updated presentation on this project on or around June 24th, 2026 for further council action and consideration. Thank you.
I had a follow-up question. Sorry, it wasn't done. Alternatively, have we re-engaged in conversation with Union Pacific in letting them know that today the council is having discussions to potentially terminate the lease, and if they are still interested in demolishing this building? Do we know?
Yes to your first question. We let them know that this is a big decision and asked them to tune in. I don't know about the second question.
There was not discussion or questions or confirmation on do they plan to demolish. That did not occur, if that's what your question was.
Right. Okay. So that's not something we asked them?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I like what Councilmember Arias stated, is that sometimes in negotiations, the best thing is to hang up or, put a deadline on it, because this thing's been floating for a long time, and I think not a high priority for staff. We've got a lot of other stuff that is higher priorities, and obviously not a high priority for Union Pacific. So I think, given another 4 or 5 months, whatever it is, with a little time pressure on both sides, and perhaps some pressure from the community on Union Pacific, to let them know what the real community fallout might be if they demolish the building in August. So I'm in favor of, I guess it's not an extension, it's a continuation of the lease until June or so. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Bashir Tosh.
I just want to get some clarification from City Attorney. It's a 12-month lease.
Yeah.
So it would have to be May 24th?
You're reading my mind, Councilmember Bashir Tosh. City manager and I were just looking at that lease very quickly. I think that UP could probably take that position, and so I would encourage the city manager and staff to come back well before the 30 days of June 24th.
So we're talking about having a decision being made in May. If Councilman Arias' motion passes, hopefully he would amend it to be in May so that we're not on the hook for another year in the event that that does pass. But I just wanted to make sure that we're...
You may want to ask Councilman Arias to repeat his motion, but as I understand it, it would be a motion to simply allow the lease to continue in its current form, and for staff to return I'll say substantially before 30 days before June 24th in order to allow the council to terminate the lease at that meeting if substantial progress has not been made to the council's determination.
Yeah, can we get that clarification, Councilman Arias?
I suppose now I'm even more confused. It was my understanding that whether we continued with the lease or terminated the lease at on June 24th, 2026, that we would still retain the ability to terminate at any point with a 30-day written notice.
I think it depends on how you read the lease. As I indicated earlier, there are two leases that the council executed, and again, that is a fault of my office. There is the original lease, and then there is an Exhibit B, which is the UP lease. So I don't know, I haven't had any discussions with UP, but I would tell you as your city attorney, in the abundance of caution, I would have the discussion and the update 30 days prior to June 24th.
Okay. I'm amenable to that. I would ask that staff bring back this item for an update well before that 30-day window. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Arias. Councilmember Bashir Tosh, back to you. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, colleagues, and thank you, Councilmember Arias, for this motion. I'm very happy with this. I think this works. I think the community will be very appreciative. The reason I love this is for three reasons. Number one is gives staff a little bit more time to negotiate with Union Pacific. Number two, though, I think it does provide us a little bit of leverage and put Union Pacific on notice that we're about to walk away. They've used this as leverage for them, for us to do some pedestrian bridge and add $20 million to the project for far too long. And we need to communicate to them that we're serious now and this is the end. But the third thing is, I think it really sends a message to the rest of the community. We all have to look for solutions for this site if we want to preserve it. And the city has done what it can, and I appreciate all of the investment over the years, and I sincerely appreciate the investment of the council. But we all have to recognize as community members that we have to figure out a solution together. So thank you for the motion. I think it helps a lot, and thank you for the extension of a little bit more time so that we can work through this with Union Pacific.
Thank you. We have a motion. Audience, the way this works is we take the second motion first. So we're going to be voting on Councilmember Arias's amended motion at this point. You have a motion. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved with Councilmember Weir absent.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Council and mayor statements.
Thank you. Can you just clear that so I can see? There we go. Just going to wait for a minute for any names to come up. Vice Mayor.
I usually don't take this much mic time, but yesterday was Councilmember Eric Arias' birthday, so please join me in wishing him a very happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
We can sing to you right now. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Councilmember Eric Arias, representing Ward 1. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. I will admit that my staff has embarrassed me, my family embarrassed me yesterday, but I think this takes the icing on the cake. So thank you very much for the well wishes. Thank you.
Happy birthday. I don't see other requests to speak. We spoke earlier about, is that Councilmember Bashir Tosh pushed his
Well,
button just
we're
now.
not going to be here next week for the other birthday that's at the dais, so we should say early happy birthday to Vice Mayor Carr. Next week is her birthday, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday, dear Vice Mayor Carr. Happy birthday to you.
We have 2 Aquariuses on the board.
And now, after all of that joy, we come back again and remember our dear former council member, Irma Carson, a trailblazer, a lover of our community, a public servant, and as she's been described, a consummate elected official. So let's take a moment now just to honor her with a moment of silence. Thank you. There are services on Friday and also on Saturday. The main one is Saturday at St. John Missionary Baptist Church. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting in honor of former council member Dr. Irma Carson. 7:37.